Good afternoon and welcome distinguished guests. Thank you for joining us for today's TMA Talk under the topic Green Innovation for Smart City. My name is Nanisha Chantautit. It's my pleasure on behalf of TMA to be the master of ceremony for today's event. Well, first of all, I would like to invite Mr. Supot Mahapan, Committee of Corporate Performance Management Group of Thailand Management Association or TMA to welcome you to TMA Talk.
สวัสดีทุกคนครับ Good afternoon to all participants. On behalf of Thailand Management Association or TMA, may welcome you all to this TMA Talk webinar under the topic of green innovation for smart city. TMA Talk is one of the many exclusive programs which TMA provides to its members and distinguished guests since 2010. Together with me today is our guest speaker of honor, Dr. Michael Weinhold, Head of Technology and Innovation, Smart Infrastructure from Siemens. Dr. Michael is calling in to participate with us from Nürnberg, Germany. Good morning, Dr. Michael.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Support, and good morning to everybody, or good afternoon, I should say, rather say. Hello.
We are 6 hours.
Thank you for having me.
Sure, thank you. Thanks for participating today. And together with us now, Dr. Michael, we have around 100 or so invitee-only participants. I understand that you have prepared to share with us your presentation for about 30 to 40 minutes before Q&A with our participants afterwards. Then we should be able to wrap up our session by 5 p.m. Thailand time as scheduled. Is that correct?
Yes, very good.
All right, sure. Before we start, just a quick housekeeping to all participants. According to the arrangement of this webinar, I and Dr. Michael will not be able to see any of you or any of your feedback directly. You can post your questions and feedbacks through the Q&A section in the screen that you use to participate in this webinar. Then the TMA staff will pass your questions or comments to me before I will try to compile and bring those questions to ask Dr. Michaels as per time allows after his presentation. I understand that the presentation deck from Dr. Michael can be available and instruction will be given to all participants afterwards by the TMA staff. Is that correct, Dr. Michael?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Wonderful. Are you ready, Dr. Michael?
I'm ready to go. Thank you.
Wonderful. Without further ado, may I pass the floor to you, Dr. Michael?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Support. And I assume everybody can see my slides. I would like to address the topic of smart cities and green innovations for smart cities. And I have structured my presentation such that I'll first give you a brief insight into Siemens and also what we are doing ourselves also in the topic of sustainability. Then I'll deep dive into that topic of sustainable infrastructures and give you examples. By giving those examples, I sort of go around the world. There's a lot of projects going on addressing smart cities. So it's very good to see what are various cities and countries doing in order to learn from each other. So it's for me, it's amazing to see this global community pushing forward. And I'll share that with you. I'll also give you some insights about the Expo in Dubai, the ongoing Expo in Dubai, where a lot of those innovations are being showcased, and then give you an outlook where infrastructures are going and give you a summary. And then I'm looking forward to have a very fruitful discussion with you. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Now, overall, I like to give you some insights into Siemens, how we are set up. So we have, as you can see, 4 industrial businesses. It's digital industries, addressing, for example, automation and digitalization, products and services for various industries, also addressing machines, electric machines, adjustable speed drives, power electronics, and so on. We have also a very strong mobility unit, and I think you in Bangkok especially are quite familiar with our offerings. If I look at the metro line in Bangkok, we have our Siemens Healthineer business, and I'm heading technology and innovation for Siemens Smart Infrastructure, so you can locate me here. We also have additional activities like, for example, Siemens Advanta doing a lot of IoT analysis services. We have our financial services. We have a Siemens real estate, and we are providing global business services. So that's how Siemens is set up. We are a focused technology company. So you can think of us as a, for example, in the technology community within Siemens, we are very much networked. So we share our insights. We perform a lot of open innovations with the surrounding world, with top universities, for example. So we have a global network also of reaching out to external parties. We are doing also a lot of partnerships with other companies and with utilities, and I'll come to a couple of those projects later on. We spend roughly 4 billion euros on R&D, and we have round about 43,000 people in R&D. Majority of those working with in the field of digitalization, data analytics, and this is also one topic that I will cover repeatedly in my talk. It's that topic of digitalization being a key enabler for reaching sustainability. You also see that we put a lot of emphasis on our on inventions and our patent portfolio and patent application. So again, think of us as a focused technology company, and always thinking ahead, thinking and discussing with our partners, with our customers, what is being needed now and in the future. And coming to a couple of projects, and now we are right into sustainability already. For example, on the left side, you see a very big historic contract that we signed with Egypt worth 3 billion euros. It's around about 660 kilometer high-speed railway line bridging from the Mediterranean to the Red Sea. It's a fully electrical railway system. So the first high-speed system, railway system for Egypt. You see our digital industries has partnered up with BioNTech, and they have put up a factory in the German city of Marburg within 5 months, incorporating Siemens automation and digitalization technologies to produce the vaccine. We have just recently also partnered up with the University of Birmingham in England, where we investigate how Internet of Things technologies, IoT technologies, sensors, for example, being connected via communication to processors and computers, can help raise the efficiency of the campus. And here a target is to become net zero, I think by the year of 2030. We are also doing a couple of PhD programs with the university. So this is one of those living labs that we are running around the world together with our partners. Another topic concerning mobility is the cooperation with the Swedish company Einride. They are developing fully autonomous electric trucks. And we have at a fair in Germany just recently showcased an autonomous fast charging system for such an autonomous truck. So this gives you a flavor of the wideness of what we are doing. around the world in the field of sustainable infrastructures. Sustainability is a very important topic also for Siemens itself. So we support the decarbonization and 1.5 degrees Celsius target. We have ourselves the target of becoming carbon neutral by the year 2030. We foster a culture of trust. We are running projects, R&D projects also, for example, concerning resource efficiency, circularity, and dematerialization. And a big topic also in the context of sustainability is the skill set of our people. So we foster our people, our employees to grow and learn and share their insights with each other. So this is being applied around the world with the whole Siemens team. These sustainability targets, these are the ones for Siemens. You will find similar targets also within other companies, probably within the audience. Many companies themselves have similar targets and are pushing themselves towards a more sustainable setup. So this was a short insight into what Siemens is, what we are doing concerning sustainability, and also giving you already a flavor of innovation projects in that field, like as I showed in the mobility sector and in the city district sector. Now, coming to what's happening globally in the energy system, I'll sort of go top down from the energy system into the cities and into the buildings, showing you what's happening and talking about several innovations in that field. So what we are seeing around the world is more and more ramping up renewables and more distributed generation together with electrified infrastructures being introduced. For example, in my home country in Germany, when I was educated as a power engineer in the 80s, we had around about 1,000 central power stations. Now we have more than 2 million power plants, and most of those power plants are renewable power plants, like large solar power plants, small-scale solar power plants, offshore wind and offshore and onshore wind power plants, together with hydropower plants and biogas power plants. Now, how you set up this renewable power plant, these renewable power plants, of course, very much depends on the localities and the geographical boundary conditions. There are countries like, for example, Norway or Austria, which have a very high degree of renewable power via hydro, for example. Other countries have a very low renewable potential and going very much towards solar technologies, like, for example, the Emirate of Dubai building one of the largest photovoltaic power plants at the moment. So what we're seeing is, in general, an increase in electricity consumption. It's a steep ramp up, and the reason for that is that by applying electrical energy, you typically raise the efficiencies of infrastructures. Just think about mobility systems, or think about applying heat pumps for heating or cooling in buildings, or think about applying adjustable speed drives in industry, so that the usage of electrical energy typically raises significantly efficiency, and you can do a lot of that and apply a lot of those technologies already. So a lot is there already. And also, going the electricity way, you can introduce then can introduce renewable energies, like, as I already mentioned, solar, hydro, wind, and so on, and thereby decarbonize the end usage. So via renewable energies, going the electricity way, you can decarbonize mobility systems, for example. I come to that later again. Talking about the capacity increase, you see that it has doubled roughly globally, the installed fleet within the last 10 years. In Europe, we had a quite remarkable event last year. It was the first time in the European Union where renewables produced more electrical energy than fossil power plants. In my home country, in Germany, last year, we had more than 50% of the electrical energy being produced by renewables. We are also seeing, not only in Europe, but also in other areas in the world, the ramp up of smart meters. Smart meters being communication and information gateway into the buildings, into the households, and they are a key enabler also to give information to the people in the houses and to have the infrastructures of the buildings and of the houses act smart in connection and in cooperation with the surrounding energy systems. So in general, what we are seeing is a strive towards decarbonization in our infrastructures. It's that more and more pronounced setup of distributed power generation also in buildings, and it's digitalization as a key enabler for reaching these targets. Now, what we are seeing in many countries, again, it's a different view. It's the setup of e-car infrastructure. It's the promotion of e-cars, of e-buses, for example. Also, as you're doing in Bangkok, for example, it's the transportation lines like public subway lines and train lines, as that example in Egypt showed. What we are also seeing in cities is more and more the integration of photovoltaics on the roofs of buildings. So, which means that buildings, be it like the roofs of supermarkets or industries or private homes, those buildings become producers of energy themselves, and we tend to talk about prosumers in this context. So not only consuming energy, but also producing electricity. And there is this strive in many areas around the world towards zero energy buildings, so that a zero target is very prominent on the agenda of many infrastructure providers, of many city district providers. And again, one of the key technologies in this context is the digitalization. So digitalization helps to innovate faster. We innovate, for example, with so-called digital twins. So we do a cyber representation of the hardware, and we can much faster develop new and efficient solutions. And this is one aspect of digitalization. Also, with digitalization, we can reach out to the people in the houses, in the buildings, give them information, and provide thereby more comfort, more safety and security to the people in the buildings. And at this point, should not forget the topic of cybersecurity. I'll also come to that in a moment. So digitalization is a key enabler. Now, if we talk about smart cities, this is about making cities more livable to the people inside the cities, inside the buildings, inside the industries. So it's talking about smart cities. It's people centered. It's people-centered topic. And therefore, when designing smart districts or smart cities, it's very important to set ourselves into the perspective of those living and working in those buildings and city districts. It's the so-called persona concept, and thereby sort of investigating ourselves what is being needed and what makes the cities more livable to the people, what makes the cities smart. And now I would like to go around the world and give you a couple of examples to make it more descriptive. of what it is about when you talk about smart cities, and also to show that a lot of those technologies which make our life more efficient, more environmental compatible, more informative, more safe, more secure, are already available. So we don't have to wait, we can act right now. Now, one topic I want to address is that topic, or that concept of digital twins. And digital twins are, you can say, a kind of single source of truth of a system. And such a system can be, for example, an electricity grid, can be a factory, can be a machine, can be a building. And to show you what has been achieved already, I want to go to Finland. And because in Finland, the transmission grid operator, so this is the shape of Finland, already a couple of years ago introduced and implemented a digital twin of the complete transmission system. So one single source, data source of truth, so-called, which is now being used for faster planning, forward simulation, for better operation and control, and also for improved asset management and monitoring. And you can see below on that figure the achievements. One is, for example, that the transmission grid reliability could be improved quite significantly. So we are seeing lots of digital twins being introduced in order to address this value chain of planning, of operation, and of maintenance of our infrastructures. And as you have a digital twin, you can, for example, have a more agile building, a more agile industry and factory setup. You can investigate and analyze what if cases upfront before implementing them. Now, this is a very technical slide for those of you who are working in the electricity grid domain. There are solutions available where you can have a self-healing electricity grid. So if there is a fault, an outage for whatever reason, then this outage is being, the reason for the outage is being identified very quickly, and bypasses are being switched. So sorry, this is a very technical slide, but this has been implemented in various places around the world. And it's necessary to think about the electricity grids as we are seeing more and more electrification of our infrastructures, especially in the cities. And on the other hand, as we are seeing more and more renewables being introduced in conjunction with the conventional power plants. So the grids are kind of glue that binds everything together. So sorry for this technical slide. Now I go from the outside of cities, I go into the cities and into the buildings with examples. For example, here's one from Vietnam, where quite at that point biggest photovoltaic power plant was being equipped with various technologies, including monitoring and control system technologies, which makes that photovoltaic power plant run quite efficiently. Again, we are seeing these renewable power plants being erected around the world, and that electricity has to be introduced into the grids. Therefore, the digital twins for grids are being developed, and then that power has to be brought into the cities, into the distribution grids of the cities, where again aspects like self-healing grids are becoming more and more important. Now, oops, that was on too fast. As we are going into the cities now, we could think of them in several layers. So we have that digital layer. We have more and more city apps being developed. For example, for the Expo, there was a city app being developed. We have one here in my where I'm at the moment in that city. We have the vertical layer. These are the buildings, for example, which comprise like cooling, heating, supply and consumption. We have the surface layer where we have transportation of goods and people, and we have the subground layer where, for example, water supply is often being and electricity is being transported. So again, the digital layer sort of glues it all together here. And one project where we are piloting these technologies and investigating also how people accept them, what they like, what they don't like, is just outside of Vienna. It's the city district Aspen. If you come to Vienna, you can take a metro line from the city center. It's only like 10 minutes. And you can visit this district where 20,000 people are living and working. And you see it's about the grids and the digitalization of the grids to make them more robust, more flexible, also to allow integration of e-car charging infrastructure. It's the buildings themselves. Also, some of them equipped with photovoltaics, for example. It's also within the buildings, the reaching out to people and to investigate what people like, what they don't like, how they accept technologies. It's also building information models, BIM. That's the abbreviation of building information models that's leading to a digital twin of the building. And it's about also, again, mobility, charging infrastructures being set up. And we are, for example, now investigating how the buildings, how the charging infrastructure can flexibly interact with the surrounding infrastructure of this city district. And you see, we are doing that together with partners. So, for example, with the local utilities like Wiener Netze and Wien Energy, and we are doing it also together with research institutes. It's an ongoing living lab. You see, the phase we are now in will last until 2023. And what we learn from this, we introduce into our products, and we apply also to, again, to our buildings, our industries, our manufacturing sites ourselves. We are building a completely new city district in Berlin, and it's called Siemens Square. So if you come to Berlin, please give me a call up front, and then I'll arrange that we show you what has already been built and what our plans are for the upcoming 10 years. And this is a district where people will live. I'll show you on the next slide, where they go to school or work. It's a mixture of residential, commercial, and industrial. And in order to set up the master plan, we did a lot of this, as I mentioned already, persona investigation. We investigated what the people like, what they prefer, and how to best make this city district livable. And again, the digitalization is one of the key enablers here. So Siemens Square is one of the key innovation sites of Siemens, and you see that the timeline runs until 2030. So if you come to Berlin next year, you are right in the middle of the building up, and you can already see some of the innovations there. Now, talking about city districts and interaction between infrastructures and distributed generation, storages, and so on. We, again, digitalization helps to optimize. Just if you look on the right side of the slide, you see that all these infrastructures being introduced now into our cities can be sort of combined and aggregated and managed via such distributed energy optimization tools. And these tools are also available as so-called software as a service tools. So do not need to develop themselves. You do not even need to purchase. You can apply them as a software as a service. Going now from the overall scope of a city district into one part of such a city district, I'd like to go again to Finland. Finland, by the way, is one of the leading countries in the application of digitalization. And what you're seeing here is a photo of the biggest shopping mall in Finland, the Salo shopping center. And that shopping center has been equipped with latest automation technologies. Again, a lot is available. You can apply it directly in order to raise efficiency. It is also being applied with photovoltaic roof, with a battery storage system, and as you see, also e-car charging stations. And that shopping center itself interacts flexibly with the surrounding energy system of Helsinki. This is a shopping center is in a part of Helsinki, and is also included in the so-called virtual power plant concept. So this is technology which is available. You can apply it, and by applying these technologies, you do not only make this infrastructure, in this case a shopping mall, more efficient, more also convenient to the people inside the shopping mall, but you can also with that with these technologies have a very flexible interaction with the surrounding energy system. And you see here on the left side some of the savings being achieved. Again, there is this strive towards net zero around net zero carbon footprint around the world. So you see here the application of enabling technologies in this context. Now moving into buildings, it's not only about applying automation technologies, very efficient HVAC technologies to run the building more efficient. It's also about applying digital tools to give the people inside the building information where they can go, where there is office space available or a meeting room available. And we are rolling out, for example, in our company, such an app. It's called the Comfy app, which provides our people guidance. They can book a desk up front, they can book a meeting room up front. And while they are doing it, the building management system already knows where to apply ventilation and cooling, and which office space is not needed during the day, and can thereby be run with different temperature, for example. And what you need, of course, are sensors in the building to have the information about the localities, about, for example, the temperature and the usage. And these sensors, for example, are provided by Enlighted, which is also belonging to Siemens. So the combination of Enlighted sensors and Comfy app, we are, of course, providing also to other buildings, infrastructures around the world. This is here an example of, with existing technologies, how you can make buildings not only more efficient, also more flexible in working with your surrounding infrastructures, but also, this is key, making the buildings more livable, more comfortable, and more safe for the people working inside the buildings. We are, again, as I said, applying it ourselves. You see here a visual of our headquarter building in Switzerland, in Zug, where we set up upfront with a building information model, digital representation, and the people who then moved into the building a couple of years ago, they could already, with augmented reality, get a taste before moving in how the building will be like. And again, these apps like that Comfy app, which gives guidance and information to the people inside the building, was being introduced here. Now, part of the buildings and our infrastructures are chargers, high power chargers, and also low power chargers, depending on what type of vehicle you are running and you need to provide with electricity. And by setting up charging infrastructure, you actually have to look at various aspects. You have to integrate it into the surrounding, not only into the building electricity and system, but also in the surrounding electricity system. So you need a clever integration, and you need a clever management of the energy flows. You might want to investigate upfront, and by the way, we did that for a couple of cities where we looked ahead together with the city planning agencies of what will come up concerning charging infrastructure and what has to be done in the coming years to accommodate those charging infrastructures. So you see, it's a charging ecosystem that is being set up around the world. And again, here, digitalization is a key enabling technology in order to be able to manage it. In the city where I am at the moment, it's the city of Nuremberg. It's in Bavaria, southeastern part of Germany. The city government itself has net zero targets, and one key aspect here is setting up the bus fleet, converting it into a full electric bus fleet. So at the moment, as a first project, a big charging station for electric buses is being built, and we are providing in this context the charging infrastructure and grid connection technologies for integrating such a charging location into the infrastructure of the city. As digitalization plays such a key role, it is important that we protect the data of individuals and businesses, that we prevent damage to the people and the businesses or infrastructures, and that we build trust in the digital world. I think trust is also very important, and that were key motivations why a couple of years ago we set up the joint initiative Charter of Trust. And you see several companies around the world have already joined into this Charter of Trust. There are also guiding principles, there are workshops, seminars, lots of information also on the internet available. And maybe you want to consider also joining into this joint initiative. Now, at the later part of my presentation, I want to go to Dubai again. We were in Dubai already when I talked about the big photovoltaic power plant being built there outside the city of Dubai. What is running at the moment is the Expo Dubai, and this is a showcase into the present and into the future. And as you see here, some key data. So it has around about twice the size of the small state of Monaco. It's designed for 300,000 visitors per day. There are more than 190 participants and pavilions. And it's also very important, majority of the buildings will remain after the Expo closes. And sustainability is a key, if not the key topic here. And so aspects are safety, security, quality of life, again, also resiliency of the infrastructures to make them highly available. And just to give you a couple of innovations and technologies that we are showcasing here. So we show what can be done concerning video management systems and surveillance systems. Also, we show building management technologies to run buildings more efficient. There is also a green hydrogen production facility, several chargers, and there is an app, a city app run on the operating system MindSphere, which collects a lot of data and via dashboard shows the status. So if you go to Dubai, give me a notice up front, and then I will arrange that you can visit and discuss with Siemens colleagues. Again, this majority of the buildings will exist also later on, and therefore the IoT and digitalization tools being implemented there, they will exist further, will be further enhanced, and we ourselves will be a proud anchor tenant of this district 2020, as it is called. I would now like to close, and by doing so, give you an outlook of what will happen, give you a flavor. We are seeing more and more this combination of the real world, the physical world, and the digital world. And this is very necessary, since with the digitalization tools that I have described, we can make life significantly more convenient and safer and secure for the people living in buildings, living in cities. And with the digitalization tools, with the analytics, with artificial intelligence, with digital twins, to name just a few, we can innovate much faster by pre-simulation of thousands of cases, picking the best ones. We can adapt in a very agile way our industries, our buildings, our infrastructures to changing needs. Agility, flexibility are also key words. And we can also investigate and we get information about the status of the infrastructures, this transparency, and we can, for example, implement tools like predictive maintenance, just-in-time as needed maintenance, for example, and advanced asset management systems. So you can think about a kind of acceleration of those two. They are complementing each other, and the focus in smart cities is making the cities more livable for the people inside. And again, a lot of the technologies that I described are already available. To give you an outlook where we are running towards, and here I picked the example of a smart building. We have come from traditional buildings with no many of those no automation technologies, no controllers, for example, for temperature setting, no connectivity to the outside world. We have introduced automated buildings. It's also a key initiative here in Europe to introduce more automation technology into the existing buildings. We are now having smart buildings like those that I showed in the pilot projects that are connected to the surrounding infrastructures and are not only efficient themselves and very convenient to live in for the people living or working in the buildings, but they are also interacting flexible with the surrounding world. And as we are applying and further developing the digital tool set, we will see more and more semi-autonomous and self-adaptive digital tools in the building. So that, for example, the building itself in the future most probably orders service as it sees that some of the infrastructure has an issue, for example, the heating system or cooling system in a building. So the building itself can set the right temperature, can pre-cool or preheat a building as needed. The building itself will reach out to the people and give them advice how to have a more convenient stay in the building. So this is a very fast pace happening with those pilot projects, as I described, in Vienna, in Berlin, the one in Helsinki, and so on. These are examples where such technologies are being introduced, are being piloted and investigated. And to close, I want to highlight that a lot of the technologies to have sustainable infrastructures, to have smart cities are already there. It's about applying them and then jointly pushing forward innovations towards a more sustainable world. those words, I would like to close my presentation, and I'm very much now looking forward to a discussion. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Dr. Michael. I see so from TMA stuff, there hasn't been many questions yet. So I will start from the smart city. When you say smart city, what are the key principles, and like in Thailand, what are the key principles that you think Thailand should be focus or put it into priority for the moment?
So since I'm not living in Bangkok or in Thailand, I can only here comment on what I have read and in discussions learned myself.
Yep.
What we are doing already is introducing very innovative transportation system, the metro line, the blue line, for example. And this is one excellent example how you can make transportation systems inside the city more convenient and more environmentally compatible to the people in the cities. So transportation systems, efficient transportation systems are one of the key elements. Also giving also efficiency, of course, in the buildings themselves, because buildings are the key intakers of energy. So applying, for example, these building automation technologies, they are also, that's also one key area. So the efficiency area. And I think a third area I would like to highlight is also giving people information in the city. So like the app, for example, so that the people are informed, and by being informed, you can also act. You can make choices. And I what I learned, I see all these three elements being addressed in Thailand.
Okay. Understand that one of the key principles of a smart city connecting to the sustainability is the clean energy, correct?
Yeah.
So with clean energy, for a country like Thailand, is mainly the energy produced by government. So as a corporate, if we look into the clean energy, that should be sort of policy from the government, from the energy provider perspective. So how do you see the region in Asia that how can a corporate like myself as well as the many executive participants here, how can we, if there's no clean energy available, no matter what we do, say in smart city, like the smart building or whatever that we are going to introduce to reduce the consumption of the energy, is still the fossil energy as a main producer. Then what else can we do? You mentioned about the virtual power plant in the building in Selfhealing. How would that contribute, or how would a corporate can take any action if there is no clean energy sufficient enough to provide to corporate like us?
Yeah, it's very important point. So one is the efficiency. The less energy you consume, the less needs to be produced. Now coming to the point of clean energy or clean power generation, you're running lots of power plants on gas, and here's of course about having a very efficient gas-fired power stations. And in my in previous years, I've been in several discussions about highly efficient gas-fired power stations. Now, these what we're seeing is more and more renewables being introduced, like photovoltaic, wind power, biomass, biogas, hydro power plants. Hydro also plays a big role in Thailand. And as you introduce more renewables, and I know you have also quite ambitious renewable targets in Thailand, this has to work together with the conventional power stations. So renewables like wind and solar, they are very variable, weather dependent by nature, by principle. And therefore, this variability then needs to work in conjunction with conventional dispatchable power plants like gas-fired power stations. And thereby, again, coming back to digitalization, what is being needed is then more and more forecasting tools that you know what is being expected in the various areas of your country concerning the renewables, and how to then best set the operation points of the conventional power plants. And when we are, and here also the concept, as you mentioned, of virtual power plants come into play. So virtual power plant is like the aggregation of conventional power plants, of renewable power plants, also of storage facilities, and of flexible end usage into one machine. And so with the virtual power plant concept, you can have then more and more renewables being part of the power generation in Thailand. We should also, at the same time, not to forget the electricity grids. The electricity grids actually are a key element of this picture, because they have to combine it physically, and they have also to transmit the energy into the urban areas like Bangkok or other cities in Thailand. And in the cities, we need the distribution, the safe and secure distribution of electricity, because let's face it, we are running very fastly in our infrastructures towards, some say, an all electric world. If you think of a modern building, it's electricity based. So not to forget the smart grid aspect here. And thereby, for example, what we are doing to make it more descriptive, we are some countries or industries, they are consulting with us. What should they do? What's the best way to set up a country, an industry, a city more sustainable? And so we have developed a concept, we call it the Energy System Development Plan. And we can, depending on the targets that a given region or country has, we can together develop a roadmap so that the sustainability targets are reached, and while renewables are being introduced more and more, the system still stays safe and resilient.
Yeah, I think Thailand has been introducing renewable power plant for more than 10 years, but unsuccessfully due to the resistance from the social, especially those who are in the area of the power plant itself. And when you mentioned that in Germany, more than 50% of the total energy from the renewable power plant, right? And what kind of a renewable, how many kinds of renewable power plant is available, and which kind of renewable power plant will be the trend? And which are the most efficient one, and to also overcome the resistance from people, from society?
Yeah, so several very important points, Mr. Support, that you mentioned. First of all, Germany today is a very good example for the previous question, for this concept of virtual power plant, because it is extremely cold at the moment in Germany, and no wind power, because no good wind conditions at the moment. Germany at the moment is running almost completely on conventional power stations, on coal and gas-fired power plants. And as the sun has now come up, we'll see probably a couple of photovoltaic power generation, but not so much, since we are quite Nordic and the sun is very low. So if you go through the year in Germany, we have times when we have more than 70% of renewable power generation, and we have times when there's only hydro producing a couple of percent. So this is a very good example of how the whole system has to work together. And now coming to what types of renewables. Now this is very special to Germany, since our hydro potential is basically used up. We don't have that many mountains, so hydro is around about 5% or so of the power generation contribution. It's wind power and it's solar power. So it's especially wind power. We have built huge offshore wind parks in the North Sea. And as you go through the countryside of Germany, you see a lot of onshore wind parks. So this is, let's say, half of the renewables. It's wind power. And then we have around about 10% of power being generated on the average per year by photovoltaics. And you also see that if you go, you see outside the cities, you see tens of megawatts of photovoltaics. And if you go into our cities, you see that more and more roofs of supermarkets, of private houses are covered with photovoltaic panels. Like if you go to my neighborhood, I'm at my home at the moment, you see lots of houses having PV. You see also more and more charging infrastructure being also implemented at those private houses. But in Germany, it's wind and photovoltaics. But it depends on where you are on this planet. If you go to where we were in Finland there are very good wind conditions. So here, together with biomass, wind power plays a significant role. That's why they did the digital twin, also in order to incorporate this expected dramatic rise of renewables. If you go to Dubai, they don't have that good wind conditions, so it's solar power. So we actually have to go country by country, region by region.
Okay, I have questions from the floor. The first question is, I'll read exactly what I received, okay? Will green innovation for smart city negatively create and wider overlap between rich and poor city?
Yeah,
I repeat the question.
I got the idea.
You got it, Dr. Michael?
Yeah. So actually, we also have this aspect here in Germany, or this issue. So it's also about the regulation and the market design, and also the incentive mechanism behind introducing green energies. And one aspect is, for example, you may have, let's say, rich people who can invest themselves in renewables, and you may have poor people who have no chance. And therefore, you have to sort of balance this out, that nobody's left behind. And there are schemes available here. Like, for example, one example is energy cooperatives. In my private life, I'm a member myself in an energy cooperative where we produce green energy like wind, bio, and solar. And we also provide that to local communities. We always have the local community being a part of the future. It's not a in this case not a pure money making scheme. It's reaching together with the communities sustainability. But it's a big issue. That this question is a good one.
Yeah. Thank you. So it's more like a national policy, right? That seems like a national policies that need to resolve these particular issues. Correct?
Yeah. So it's therefore the governments and the politicians have an important role. They of course need to incorporate upcoming technologies. So like I'm also part of the German Academy of Science, and we do studies and consult politicians with options what to do. And also it's about educating people, about showing and describing to the normal citizens what is happening and what's being needed, and what important role they themselves play in this context. So it comes back to people. Because what you see, all these talks about sustainability, they don't make that much sense if you do not have people also buying in. And for example, using transportation lines like in Bangkok, or switching to e-mobility, auto car sharing, or in many of my colleagues, they don't have any car at all. So it's also in this context listening also to the younger generation about their plans, their wishes, and their concepts.
You just make a very good transition to the next question that talking about more or less related to the e-mobility. That the question is that in a smart city, people can fulfill their requirements within the 15 minutes. For example, to go anywhere within 15 minutes. Does it mean that there will be numbers of small cities within the big city?
Sorry, I had no acoustics for around about 10 seconds. Could you briefly repeat your question again? I only heard the last sentence. Sorry.
The question is that it was told that as a smart city, people in such smart city should be able to access to anywhere within 15 minutes in the regular life. Does it mean that there should be a multiple small cities within the big cities?
Yeah, it's like city districts also being integrated into the wider concept of a city. And this is exactly happening in Berlin. It's a good example or a good description of what is happening in Berlin. If you need to come to Berlin and give me a call, please, up front. And there you see several city district developments, but no one is isolated. They all sort of glued together. Yeah. Okay. And the transportation plays an important role here, as you just pointed out. Yeah.
All right. The next question is, which city has the best planning for the green to become a green city? From your perspective, from your knowledge.
This is.
Don't say Germany.
I don't want to be unjust. You see, every city has its history and coming from somewhere. So it's I gave a couple of examples. Maybe one city where I always sometimes spend my holidays is Copenhagen. I didn't mention it in my presentation, but Copenhagen has also quite innovative city districts that are in operation already. They are also having this concept of public transportation, also of what you see when you come to Copenhagen is bicycle lanes. So you see like bicycle autobahns in the city. By the way, we are doing it also here now in where I'm living. So some cities around the world are trying to learn from Copenhagen. So yeah, it's a kind of best practice sharing going on.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, they are also looking to Bangkok and with the transportation system, for example. So that's best practice sharing.
Fair enough. I think a different base, a different plan, right? And for the interest of time, I think this should be the last questions. The last question is, currently Thailand has a hot discussion on the EV, the electrical vehicles, as a solution for the sustainability in smart cities, to become a smart city. What are the mandatory elements of sustainability in connection with EV, with electrical vehicles?
Yeah.
You mentioned about the e-mobility charging ecosystem.
So if you, the charging infrastructure, of course, is one key element here. And that charging infrastructure has to be integrated into the buildings, into the parking garages, and into the distribution grids. And this is, for example, there's just a study that has been published by German distribution grid operators. What are the options to cleverly implement and introduce these charging infrastructures? So that comes back to the technologies that I described, which enable the clever and flexible management of grids, incorporating charging infrastructure and, for example, air conditioning systems. So so this is one aspect. The other one is, of course, having the software backend services to run not only the EVs, but also the charging infrastructure, and also the technologies, integrating it, as we are just seeing buildings here, into the automation system of the buildings.
Okay.
And again, here the technologies are available, so it's not we're not talking about future innovations to happen. Of course, they will happen. We will definitely move more towards autonomous systems in the future, but many technologies available can already be applied to kick it off.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Michael Weinhold.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody.
I'm certain that there are several more questions behind us, but from your presentation, I think it's a good guidelines for us to explore more and see how each corporate, each people, each ecosystem players to play roles in helping our globe to become green, okay, and build more smart cities for each of us. Thank you very much, Dr. Weinhold.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. I may pass this back to the TMA.
On behalf of TMA and our distinguished guests, I wish to express my sincere appreciation and thankfulness for Dr. Michael Weinhold and Mr. Suput Mahapan for an interesting talk, which I truly believe is very beneficial to all of us. Well, and before we go, I would like to seek your cooperation in completing the evaluation form by scanning the QR code, or you can click at the questionnaire button on your screen below. Your feedback is essential to all of us to improve our program and services to you. Well, now we have come to the end of TMA Talk, Green Innovation for Smart City. I would like to express our appreciation to the generous sponsors, Bangkok Bank Public Company Limited and Siam Commercial Bank Public Company Limited, that have been such a great support. Finally, TMA would like to thank all of you for joining us today. We are also looking forward to seeing you again at TMA's next event. And also please visit www.tma.or.th or TMA social media accounts to explore more activities. Once again, thank you very much and happy holiday.